Can you hear me? Okay. So I will speak in English today. We are not in Lund. There I will speak Danish, but here I do it in English. So I'm CFO and co-founder of Saniona, which I'm going to present to you today. Saniona is a biotech company, which is just hang on, so I know tracking time, which is focused on developing therapeutics for autoimmune diseases, neurologic diseases, and autoimmune diseases. We have several products in the clinics now. We have a platform and a world-class team within ion channels where we are starting from making our medicines. And we have made a number of partnerships with pharmaceutical companies which has financed part of the operation during the last 3 or 4 years. Some of those are mentioned up there. So we formed the company in 2012. Already the year later, we made our first spin-off called Attraction in Boston, together with a venture capital firm called Atlas Ventures and Biogen. Then in 2014, we were the first Danish company to become listed at Aktiedagen here in Sweden. In spring here in 2016, we then moved it to First North. And in the autumn, we have made our second spin-out called Initiator Pharma, where we have distributed all our shares in this company to our shareholders. And intention is that this company will be listed at Aktiedagen during the first quarter next year. And then we are planning to take the company to Nasdaq main market. And this now is going to be at the earliest at second quarter 2017, I believe. So this we do in order to make the institutional investors available, or make it possible for them to invest in the company going forward. At the right side, you see some of the major milestones we have done within the last 12 months. And as you can see, there's a lot of things happening in this company. Things are moving fast. We have put several programs into the clinics over the last 12 months, and we have made a number of partnerships. Our main value drivers in the company are our clinical assets, and particularly the product in the middle called Tesomet, which we are currently running a phase 2 study in humans in Germany for type 2 diabetes. Also recently we announced that last week, that we will start another phase 2 study with this product in Prader-Willi syndrome, which I will come back to. Then we have made a collaboration with Medix about tesofansin, which they will take into phase 3 clinical trials for obesity. And they are going to finance. It's going to happen in Mexico. And on the other one, we have a collaboration with the University of Penn, who are conducting right now a phase 2 study in cocaine addiction with a product called 2359, which based on government grants. So these two are basically partnered and not under our bill. And then we have a number of early stage programs, of which several are performed together with partners. We have right now 9 active programs, and 6 of those are financed through partnerships. The last partnership was announced in August this year, together with Boehringer Ingelheim, a very interesting program for schizophrenia. We were paid 5 million euros upfront from Boehringer Ingelheim in relation to these partnerships. They will pay additional $90 million in milestone payments, and then we get royalty on product sales. And they are going to fund this research and take it into the clinical development and finance all this. We're just having upsides in relation to this. So a very classical biopharmaceutical pharma deal, but also a very classical good deal. This slide shows, you can say, the distribution of our deals based on who's financing it and who has the commercial right. And up in the left corner, you have programs which we are financing and where we, of course, then also have the commercial rights. And we have 2 ongoing research programs. One is called a GABA program for neuropathic pain and an IK program for inflammatory bowel diseases. And then we are running a clinical trial for Tesomet in type 2 diabetes and in Prader-Willi syndrome. Then down here, we then have the other part of the situation. This is our partner program. They are financing the development, and we receive milestones and royalties on product sales. And we have 3 of those. And up here, we have then 2, you could say, an interesting area called a free ride, because we have retained all the commercial rights, but it's financed by third parties, as our partners. And we have a research program which is funded by Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson Research. So this is a Parkinson research program. And then we have 2359, which is financed through grants in a phase 2 study in cocaine addiction. And then we have this deal with Medix, which is a kind of cross-border, because they have the commercial right in Mexico and Argentina, but only in those two countries. And they're developing right now tesofensine. They will move on to Tesomet later on and perform phase 3 studies in Mexico in order to introduce those in Mexico. And we have the right to the rest of the world outside Argentina and Mexico, and also the data they're generating. So we get also royalties and product sales from them in relation to these double-digit royalties in Mexico. It's a quite interesting deal. So what is strategy and financing? The deal with Boehringer Ingelheim has given us more strategic flexibility, because now we got a lot of cash in. And we are investing, you could say, we are focused on our investment on Tesomet, which we see as the primary value driver for the company in the short to medium term. And we are right now forming a phase 2 study in type 2 diabetes, and then we have announced we're looking at different options that these products can be used in many different indications. And we have announced that we next year will start another study in Prader-Willi syndrome. Also, we want to select a candidate for our research program in the coming period. This is our primary value driver. Then we have 2 products in partnerships, financed by partners, but where we have retained significant commercial rights. So this is our second value driver. And then we have the platform where we can enter into partnerships, and which will be a long-term value driver for the company as those products are entering into the clinics. But it's also a financial vessel for Saniona, as illustrated with the Boehringer Ingelheim deal. And which is basically what we want to achieve is a biotech company which is partly self-financed. And we do this by partnership. So we control our deficit by income from partnerships. We call it high ambition, low burn rate. You can look at this as a game of chess, where you have the queen up here with lots of different possibilities, 2 strong towers which could move forward because we have retained commercial rights where we need to think about what to do with. And then we have some horses and löpar, as they say in Sweden, which we could move forward fast into either the tower or the queen area. And this is the kind of strategic thinking we have. Sometimes you need to sell one in order to get to the final goal, and this is sometimes what we do, also because a program maybe is relevant for out-licensing early. Otherwise, other times we move it forward because we think we can create more value this way. And finally, we sometimes also make our spin-outs. I said high ambition, low burn rate. So how are we doing? As you can see up here, we have actually generated income every year since we started. And it has covered the major part of our operational cost, internal operational cost. In first half of 2016, we had 19 million Swedish in revenues, up 10 million from last year. We had 34 million Swedish in cash. If you add the 50 million we got from Boehringer Ingelheim in August, then this number is 84 million. And that is actually the same as we have raised in the stock market in the last 3 years. So we are pretty close to break even as of June this year. So it has not only financed our internal operational cost, it has also supported the investment in phase 2 studies and in preclinical development and in our own research programs during this period. So the strategy seems to work, and the financial strength have increased significantly during the period. The price of the company has also increased quite a lot over the last year, more than 100%. And the reason is that we have delivered in accordance to set targets. So last year we said we want to start 2 phase 2 studies. We did that. Both of those were started in Q2 this year. We also said that we would like to start a phase 1 study on a program, if 363, if we had, you could say, get a good explanation of a preclinical finding we had seen. We could not find a good explanation for this, and therefore we have put it on hold and concentrating on backup compounds in this program instead. And then instead, we were able to announce early in the year the deal with Medix, and that gave a new clinical target because they want to start phase 3 studies for tesofensine in obesity. So that was the one we did not talk about in the autumn. Also, on, you can say, business development, we were quite ambitious. We said we wanted to partner with clinical assets. We said we wanted to saw good opportunities to both partnering and make spin-outs on our early stage pipeline. And we also said that we want to make a partnerships at least one of the assets we got back from Janssen and Pfizer in 2015. And we have delivered now for all 3 lines with the deal, Medix deal, Upsa Smith deal, the grant from Michael J. Fox, the spin-out Initiator Pharma, and now recently the Boehringer Ingelheim deal. So all done, full house almost, and this means that we also need to set up targets for the coming period. And what we see here is that in the short term, we would like to present top-line data for Tesomed's phase 2 study in type 2 diabetes. We would like to initiate a phase 2A study for Tesomed in Prader-Willi syndrome, and we would like to initiate phase 3 study on tesofensine together with Medix. And then we would like to select a candidate from our internal research program for further preclinical and clinical development. So this is what we plan to happen over the coming period on our pipeline. If you look at business development, then we also see good opportunities to enter into additional agreements, both on our clinical assets and in our preclinical assets, and also to actually make spin-outs. So we also hope to provide shareholders with news on this front in the coming period. And then finally, we will go for listing in NASDAQ, as mentioned previously. So this is what we look forward in the next 12, 15 months or so. So a little bit about our programs, clinical programs, in interest of time. How much do you have? 6, 7 years? Or? Okay. So I will make 2 of them then. Tesofensine. Medix is starting phase 3 studies. We'll plan to start phase 3 studies on tesofensine for obesity in Mexico. And we have double-digit royalties on products here. Mexico is quite a big market. 1/3 of the people are either obese or overweight, and they have severe problems in type 2 diabetes and similar. So they have a significant need for this product. And Medix is the largest company in this field in Mexico today. They would like to introduce tesofensine. Tesofensine has not less than 3 mode of actions in treatment of obesity. It raises dopamine level in the reward center in the brain, and this means that the patient get the satisfaction they are looking for while eating. Most people are not eating because they're hungry, it's because they're looking for satisfaction. And this is why dopamine is so important in this indication. Then it also raises serotonin level in the appetite center. This regulates appetite, and that means that they don't feel so hungry. It's normalized, basically. And then finally, there's also increase in noradrenaline level. And this is, you can say, our emergency signal, where we are starting burning fat. Also, our heart starts to increase, boost faster when we get a little bit afraid. And therefore, we are starting up fat burning in the body instead of just putting on the muscles. So 3 mode of action, and that's why we see an extraordinary weight loss in these patients in phase 2 study, comprising a total of 203 patients a couple of years ago. The curve on the left, you see the placebo-controlled weight loss of the commercial available products. It is typically between 2 and 7% after 12 months or more. Tesofensine had a weight loss of 9.2% in less than 6 months. This study was continued in an open-label fashion, and there we saw a weight loss in the patient of 13 to 14% over a year. So this is about the double of what you see with other products. It is competitive with surgery, so where you typically have weight loss in 15 to 20%. Surgery, where you're actually taking away a large part of the stomach in order to make it smaller or put a clamp on in gastric banding. So it's very interesting. Its product has been tested in 1,300 patients. It is well tolerated, adverse effects similar to placebo, so you can't really distinction. But we do see an increase in heart rate, and that is because of noradrenaline, which is in the product. and it increased with about 8 beats per minute. It's not a problem in Mexico, but it will be a problem if you're going to introduce it in US and Europe, because we need very large studies in order to introduce in these geographies. But that will not be the case in Mexico. Here it will be seen as a very safe product compared to other products introduced in the market there. And that's what they go for initially, and then they will go for Tesomet later on. We have discovered that by combining tesofensine together with a beta blocker, metoprolol, then we can blunt the increase in heart rate. So Doradolin is pushing on the beta receptors, and by blocking those, then we can push on the heart rate, and it does not affect tesofensine's weight loss properties. And we have then filed a patent on this combination as well as its use, and it has been granted in the United States recently, last year. And we think this is the compound we are investing in. And we see a number of different indications for this compound, both in type 2 diabetes, Prader-Willis, fatty liver, and another indication called binge eating. We started with type 2 diabetes, where we run a phase 2 study right now. Come back to this later. And then we have announced recently that we will start another study in Prader-Willis. So the phase 2 study is a 60-patient study. Recruitment was finalized in the beginning of August. It's 3 months treatment, so the last patients soon finish, and then will be 1 month follow-up, and then the data clean up. So we expect to have top-line data early next year. And it's going to be very interesting to see the data. So let's see, what are we looking for? We say the primary endpoint is that whether we can blunt metoprolol, the increase in heart rate with metoprolol. That will be safety first. Then we are looking at glycemic parameters, so we are looking at the key marker for type 2 diabetes called HbA1c. We are looking for weight loss, and we are looking for reduction in liver fat. And this is the key in type 2 diabetes. But type 2 diabetes is, I'm not sure it's called a disease in many patients. It's a syndrome of obesity. So when you put on weight, there will be fat in the liver, and there will be fat in your pancreas. And then the liver can't suck up the blood sugar, and your pancreas can't produce insulin because they're unfit. If you then lose weight, then they will go back in shape and then start working again. That's the intention. That's why doctors are telling people go and take a weight loss when they have type 2 diabetes for the first time. Other companies, they are trying to manage it, promote insulin production and all sorts of things, but it doesn't cure the patients. And the result is dear for the patients. 50% of the patient will need insulin after 10 years because the pancreas is so exhausted and can't produce insulin anymore. And the result is blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, blindness for some of these patients. So it's very tough. And therefore they need treatment, but we will try to do something else. We will go for the concept that losing weight. And it has been shown in clinical trials that if people are losing 15 to 20% of weight, they may escape the disease. And this can change everything if it works. And that is what we are going for here. So it's a big thing, it's a big market, and it will change a lot if it works. We know that tesofensine normalizes pre-diabetic glucose level in pre-diabetics from the obesity study. We know that metoprolol can blunt the increase in heart rate in the phase 1 study. And we know from animal studies that it does not affect the weight loss properties of tesofensine. So this is what we're looking for with, and are very interesting, and we're looking forward to report on this phase 2 study. So we said last week we start Prader-Willis syndrome. It's an orphan drug disease. It's very rare. Incidence is 1,000. Fortunately, it is only 1 in 15,000 live births. So it is, you can say, a disorder caused by deletion or loss of function of 7 genes on one of the chromosomes, and they regulate appetites. So these patients, they are born with an extreme hunger. They're eating all the time, and it persists, this hunger, no matter how much they eat. They can literally eat to the bowel ruptures. And it leads also to obesity, and therefore also to the symptoms of obesity such as type 2 diabetes and early death if not controlled. They also have some other problems to various degrees. Some of them have mental disorders, others are close to normal. they have a shortened life expectation, but it has also been shown that if you can avoid obesity in these patients, then they can live a normal life and have really normal life expectation. There is no cure available today on this genetic disorder. Sometimes they are given growth hormones, but it doesn't help the problem on obesity. The only way you can avoid it is to lock fridges and food locks. That's what happened during childhood. These people are in general not available to live at their own, but in most countries they do when they go into and growing old. Surgery is not an option in these patients because you then just increase the risk of bowel ruptures when they're eating. So that's a contraindications. It's expensive to society. It's estimated that the patient costs $100,000 to $200,000 in the United States per year. And it's also, of course, affect the economy of families because one of them may have to stay home, cannot have any income. So there's not really much products in the clinics. Only one product in phase 2, as we can see right now. The most promising agent was a product for Saftian. Has a very strong weight loss, but that was also proved to be toxic and was taken out of phase 3 clinical trials, put on hold last year. But it's interesting for us because the result was very promising, and we have a very safe product, and we can look into their clinical plans. So we see it's a very interesting opportunity. Obesity is the primary risk for these patients, and Tisomet could have significant health benefit due to its mode of action. It's a rare disease, so we can look for orphan drug status, we can look for fast tracks and other things. And the clinical trials are manageable. So a small proof of concept would serve for a phase 2 study. And in fact, Saftian actually went through with just 17 patients. Phase 3 study is counting in few hundreds. Saftian had a phase 3 study on 108 patients only. So this is something a small company can do. And it was only a 6-month study, as you see. So something short studies, small studies, and fast. It's also feasible. There is a worldwide parent organization which has founded a foundation for Prader-Willis research, and they have also a patient register with more than 1,000 patients, so you can actually identify these people, despite that it's a rare disease. We have filed an IND in Czech Republic and Hungary for start of phase 2 in 2017. Right. How much time do we have? Okay. So we'll take the last one very short. So we're also running phase 2 in cocaine addiction together with the University of Penn. So cocaine is a fast increase in dopamine level in the brain, and this is causing the euphoria. An extreme level is going up to, and then very fast. So then they have euphoria, and when they top, then it is also have a very short half-life in the body, so therefore it comes a fast drop. And that is why people experience it down shortly afterwards they have taken it. The problem is that it goes below the normal level, so they get kind of depressed, and that is why they get the craving more cocaine. And cocaine addicts are actually a little bit depressed all the time, unless they are on drugs. So that's why it's so hard to get out of if you first get addicted. And there are no products available today to help these people. 2359 have some interesting characteristics which could help them. It works in the same way in cocaine, but it has total different pharmacokinetics. So it has a slow onset, and this means that they are only to the normal level, so therefore you don't see any abuse potential. It does also have a very short half-life, and a long half-life. And it has been tested in several patients, no euphoria has been registered, and there has been no abuse potential of the product. So it can take away the craving and the withdrawal symptoms, or help them. In addition to this, it binds harder to the receptors of cocaine. So cocaine can replace cocaine. Cocaine cannot get it to its target. And this means that we can take away the effect of cocaine if they start using cocaine during treatment. So it is a dual effect for these people. It helps them to get out, but it also will prohibit them to have any effect of cocaine if they are taking it with 2359 in the blood. So that makes it interesting, and that's why University of Penn are so eager to test it. They are taking an 80% trial, 80-patient trial. It's a 3-month study, and the primary endpoint will be abstinence of cocaine in the urine during the last 2 weeks of the study. It's done in you can say in a university setting, and the funding is not so good yet, but so it's going to take a little time before it's finished. But it's moving. This study here shows some interesting data from a phase 1 study performed by NIDA, that is the National Institute of Drug Abuse in the United States. They did that for a couple of years ago in phase 1. And here what you see is that they first gave either a placebo, a pill, or a 2359 to the users, and then they were later on gave them a dose of cocaine. And then they asked them, what do you think about the cocaine? And those who got 2359 was not very impressed. They did not want to pay as much as the others. They didn't like to use it. They didn't feel stimulated, and they had not really any desire to take it. So quite an interesting study. It's only 24 patients, of course. They also measure some clinical parameters such as blood level and heart rate and blood pressure, and it showed that it prohibited actually cocaine to work because there's a dramatic increase in these parameters, and actually reduced it. So it actually replaced cocaine here. So it looks good, this phase 1 study, and this, I said before that it has a very slow onset. And in this study, only get one dose of 2359. We expect in this study that the concentration of 2359 in the blood in these addicted people will be 10 times higher. And this means that we may have even better results in this phase 2. So it looks good. It looks interesting. So summing up, we have 2 phase 2 studies ongoing. We are starting another phase 2 study next year, and Medix is starting a phase 3. We have a platform and another partnership which partly finance these programs. And we have made 4 deals this year, including a spin-out, which is going to be listed at Aktiespararna later next year. We see a lot of inflection points. Medix starts planned phase 3, top-line data on Tisomet phase 2 studies coming in early year. And we start phase 2 in Prader-Willi syndrome. And then we have a world-class team where we believe that we can make further partnerships. And finally, we move into Nasdaq. Thank you.
I will then welcome you to join me here at the table. Have a seat.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, obviously we got some minutes left for questions here, and I'll start off with the audience. Is there anyone who wants to ask Thomas something about Saniona?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't understand why you speak English. We understand Danish as well.
Speak Swedish, please. So.
What was the strategy behind giving Nature Pharma to shareholders? What is the strategy? Will it develop better outside Saniona or than inside? Could you explain that a little more?
What was the strategy for in?
For giving away the company Initiator.
Okay, yeah.
To the shareholders.
Yeah, what
Okay.
was the strategy?
Right.
Strategy for giving
So-
away Initiation Pharma to the shareholder.
So-
Maybe you can do that better than me.
Yeah.
Explain.
Okay. So, as a Saniona, we have a lot of assets in Saniona, and we are commercializing these assets in different ways. We have made 2 spin-outs so far, one with a venture capital and now one which we're going through a separate stock listing. And then we have other programs we're developing internally. In this program, this was not ion channels. We still had to do some research, so it did not really fit into what we are doing today on a research strategy. And we still need to work on this. Therefore, we were not really moving these assets ourselves. And we were thinking about how to get those compounds forward. And then the inventor, he's a Swede, lives in Malmö. He was inventor during the neurosearch days. He was looking for setting up a management team around these compounds. And he met with a professor in Aarhus, who is, I think, one of the top 5 leading researchers in this field. So, and he tested this compound for reaction problems, and found it positive and was very excited about it because it's a different mechanism of action compared to Viagra. And they wanted then to start a company. And then came in a clinical person and a CEO, and together we think there's a very great team. So therefore we founded the company, put the assets over to them. They know how to do it. They want to pursue it, and our shareholders will benefit on this instead of it just being on our shelves.
Was there anyone else who had a question for Thomas? It might have to be quick though. Yeah, I can go for you.
I understood that the result from the Tisomet study will come in early next year.
Yeah.
When do you deliver results?
So tesofensine, we have announced about the tesomet study on phase 2 early next year, because also we know exactly what time is coming out, and we are looking very much forward to this. When it comes to tesofensine, then the study has not started yet. The medics are working very hard on getting the IND in place and negotiating with the authorities. Starting phase 3 studies are far more time-consuming than starting a phase 2 study, because you need to negotiate with the authorities and be sure that the study you do actually will get market approval on. So there's not a different discussion when you start a phase 1 or phase 2. It's much more standard. And they have these discussions going on, and we will report about this when we know something certain. But they're moving. How long it's going to be? I think it's going to be this type of study is typically a 6-month study or something. But we will when we know exactly when it's going to start and much more about it, we will also come with the proof, how many patients there are, and some more information about how the design of the study, of course.
Yeah, and we have to finish it off there, and I have to thank Thomas for his time, and in a short time here, in 10 minutes, you will be able to listen to Quick Call. Thanks. Bye.
That was
and you will also be able to meet Thomas outside here and talking to him afterwards. Thank you. Tack Thomas.
okay.